Oh, with Summer League?
Summer League, and then I got meetings in New York. So.
Oh, we got to make a plan for Summer League, huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's an overlay. Hang on. It's not what we want.
You got to put it in the bottom
background. See, that's annoying because you delete all these. It's just bad.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they go to, booty ball, and, it's really, really hard to guard.
I just love how serious it is.
Okay.
Like, booty ball.
Oh, by the way, I hit up Sam, and he politely declined.
Really?
Because he says, I love you guys both. And he's like, I don't have anything positive to say. He's like, I hated their draft. And so he was like, I don't want to come on there and just shit on the guy.
Why? I mean, it's weird when people say that. Because, I mean, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, if that's...
I think it's more like he's just like, I don't know that that's what Nuggets fans want to hear. I don't think he's worried about us. But
I know that. But to me, it's like, yeah, like, that's cool.
Okay, then I'll try and pull him back on.
I mean, to me, that stuff is just cool. Like,
yeah, it's good.
It kind of, I mean, I'm kind of people are so cynical, man. I swear to God, like the internet has turned us all into our most cynical selves because, like, you know me, I'm excited about Jalen Pickett because I think he's interesting.
Yeah,
him being good or not is like such a long shot to begin with. I'm just like, I like this guy and I'm interested, and people are so upset that I'm interested.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, what the hell do you want?
Yeah, I had a response like that the other day that caused me. I've been doing so much better about instead of responding to stuff like that.
Oh my God, we're live and we don't realize it.
Just logging off. Oh, hey guys, what's up? How y'all doing?
Did you hit the live button?
I didn't hit the live button.
That is too funny.
The internet is cynical and everything is bad. Welcome to Locked On Nuggets.
We live an interesting life here. I can't believe we've been live. How did that go live?
Well, there are worse things that could have gone live with. Honestly, we talked about things that would have been much worse. For it to have
way
gone
worse.
live.
It could have been much worse. Disaster.
Let's roll this back from the top.
See, I will say this. People seeing the behind the scenes realize sometimes people say what you just thought about, like, oh, they don't want to say anything negative. Like for me, I'm like, no, negative, positive. I want every perspective. I want people to know it's unfiltered.
Yeah.
I like this one. Finally answering my question. Matt.
Oh, that's great. Okay, here we go. Welcome to Locked On. No, wait, we gotta do the intro. Okay, hang on.
This is our greatest intro ever.
Yeah, it really is. Could Bruce Brown be headed to the Lakers? Question mark, exclamation mark. What does it mean for the Nuggets? How do they respond? Plus, is the Northwest Division going to be a little bit better this year? What's that mean for Denver? All this and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on whatever platform that you've chosen, whether you're joining us on Apple Podcast, 5-star reviews, please, Spotify, Pocket Casts, or if you're joining us on YouTube, we can catch a live version of the show. Join folks like Brent Harris, hanging out with us. Hurricanes in here with us as well. Freddie's hanging out with us. Malutin is hanging out with us. Carlos is hanging out with us. You guys are live, letting us know that we were off to that kind of start. 55555-ish. Shout out to okay, hang on. 1, 2,
5. There's 5.
Oh, there's 5. All right. Yeah. Shout out to 5-ish for being the first one in the chat segment every day. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us. You can catch us all throughout the week. Appreciate you guys being everydayers, even when we absolutely bomb our intro on accident, as we did on YouTube, just because we didn't realize that we actually started. On today's show, we're going to talk about Bruce Brown. We're going to talk about the Mike Singer's report that the Los Angeles Lakers are interested in Bruce Brown's services, what that would mean. We'll talk about how important Brown's return to the Nuggets is, how they kind of respond to it, all these types of things. on today's show. We'll also talk about the Northwest Division because the Utah Jazz trade for John Collins. Don't know what the Blazers are going to do. OKC is really interesting, and I think the Wolves probably have a little bit of upside as well. So we'll talk about that division and what it means for Denver in the last segment. Hope you guys are having a good week. I'm Matt Moore, senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Adam Mares. Adam, Mike Singer of the Denver Post reports that one team that could be interested in Bruce Brown services. The one team.
There's only one team I would bother me. So what team is? There's no team that could. It doesn't really matter.
The Los Angeles Lakers. Well, and Adam's gone. He just logs off. Yeah.
Oh, come on, Bruce. Don't do that to us.
It would be real. I mean, what would be really rough about it is that it's not like a PJ Tucker situation where they could re-sign him and chose not to. Like Denver's like, we physically are not allowed to give you more money. Like we are not allowed to give you more money. And so for him leaving and then joining the Lakers would be pretty rough, which is why I'll also say this, like, it's been really funny to see Lakers fans, like, they're just really, like, they're really annoyed with the Nuggets.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
like
my
Nuggets fans are in the crawl space of fans. And they keep being like, no, we have such a great hit, but you could, like, they're just so annoyed. Yeah. And they just want to see you suffer. It's
because they're suffering. That's why.
So you want to talk about it you wanted to talk about this from more of a Nuggets perspective.
Well,
first,
sure. Yeah.
In terms of Bruce Brown leaving, we kind of covered it in various shows. I don't know that there is any real capacity. Bruce is such a not singular in talent, but his skill set and combo is so unique. I think it's difficult. Like, you'd have to piece together different guys doing different things. But I think overall, like, you're just going to be missing something if Bruce Brown leaves.
You want to address this one? Since Mike Singer isn't PR for team and agencies, report about Lakers is probably serious. Otherwise, what's the point of reporting? I mean, look, Mike Singer, very reputable. It's not like he is carrying water for anybody. Very few of these reports are. But to think that intel doesn't come from one side of a transaction, even to reputable people, that is not how this works. People will take information from wherever it comes, and a reporter will try to understand where that is coming from. But one possibility, for such a report could very well be coming from Bruce's camp, meaning agent or something, in an effort to get other people to bid on it. So even if it's not like, Singer's not doing PR work for anyone, but that report could have come about in a way that was just somebody trying to wag the dog.
So when I do the slop articles, as they've come to be called in the nomenclature, I will just say, like, I've reported things that I know are being put out there purposely by entities, but I've heard them from enough places to believe them to be accurate.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're out there because somebody is interested in giving the fans the truth. Ha 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 ha. No, all of it is based off of information that is being leveraged. It's either transactional in nature in that you're trading with somebody and you're like, hey, I heard this thing. Or they ask you, like, can you find out something about this guy? And you find out, and then you're like, here's what I heard. And then you get more information and you try and piece that together. But also just like some of this it really is just like you mentioned, it could come from the agent. It could come from anybody. Like, who stands to benefit from the idea that there's a offer in the works from the Los Angeles Lakers? Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown stands to benefit from that because it means that there is a bidder in the marketplace for his services. And anytime that there's like a report or word gets out that somebody's got an offer on the table, and I know this sounds crazy, but I swear to God it's true. The minute there's an offer on the table for somebody that's reported, other teams are like, oh, maybe we should look at that guy, which I'm like, you weren't looking on him before, but that really, I swear to God, that's how it happens.
Also, Bruce is a really good player, and this is a thin free agency class. Just assume that any team that has money that is like a contender is probably interested in him. I mean, he's going to be a popular player that a lot of teams will likely have at least considered. So it kind of is what it is. But the Lakers being a team that have the ability to do, I mean, that's the bigger report is, okay, they have their MLE, they can offer him this 12.8, and they view him as a piece there. Just to attack this from Bruce perspective, I mean, I guess we'll bounce around a little bit here, but Bruce was not happy. He said this. He was not happy in Brooklyn. part of that was the zoo of, I'm imagine a little bit has to do with the zoo of, being in Brooklyn, being there where there just is more media and more this or that. But a lot of it had to do with the situation specifically of the Stars and what a zoo it was with Kyrie and Kevin Durant and James Harden. He did not enjoy his time there. The Lakers aren't quite that, but one, it's the number one eyeballs market. It's Los Angeles and it's the Lakers. It's a zoo. LeBron and Anthony Davis, especially LeBron, not exactly a guy known for being able to just like hide behind the scenes, right? He's going, every little thing he does, every Instagram post he puts makes the first segment of SportsCenter. So to me, the Lakers might be a good fit for him on a basketball standpoint, because I think Bruce is a good player and any good team would be. Although I do think he would be off ball more. I don't know that he's running a bunch of dribble handoffs and pick and rolls with Anthony Davis the way he is in Denver, where he kind of gets to do everything. But it's still a good basketball fit. But I do wonder if that's what he wants. If it's from everything he said, it doesn't sound like he would want to go to the Lakers to play with the biggest superstar in the game.
Yeah,
but I don't know well enough to say.
I mean, a lot of this is just about the money. Like, that to me is like, I think there's no basketball reason for him to leave Denver. There's no situational reason that I can find for him to leave Denver. He seems comfortable here. And I'll be honest with you, like, that's rare. Like, there's just not a lot of players that come through that are like, Denver's my kind of town. I like this place. Doesn't happen a lot. Just point blank. Guys either want to be on the East Coast or they want to be on the West Coast. And to be honest, that's how it is for most teams throughout the NBA. Like, Memphis is an exception because of the culture there in terms of like the city's culture. Like, it just has a different vibe to it. There's a couple other places, but for the most part, everybody just kind of like wants to eventually move to one of the coasts. And why wouldn't you? If you're a multimillionaire, there's more stuff to do. That said, I think from Denver's perspective, what I think is good about this is I do compare it kind of to the PJ Tucker situation, even though Bruce is way younger than PJ, is that the Bucks were like trying to be galaxy brained and like, is PJ Tucker really worth that much? Like, he's probably not worth that much to, from in a vacuum, like, to that. We can afford to let him go. And like, that was a drastic miscalculation on their part. Like, they needed every single guy that they could get who wanted to stay there. Like, they needed those guys. Versus the Nuggets, who are in a situation of, we'd love to have you stay. We want you to be here like as long term as possible. Like, we want to make this work. We physically cannot offer you more. We are restricted in what we are able to offer you. And so Bruce then gets to make the decision of like, but I've said this consistently throughout the process. When this gets into the idea of trust, that's where I start to get a little nervous, and I get to like, for Bruce, I get a little cautious, and he doesn't need me watching out for him. He's got his agent, he's got his people, he's got his family, and he's got himself. But I just tend to be like, I don't know, man. With what I've seen in the league, go get yours. Like, get the money. Make sure that you're taken care of.
One last thing here, though, for me about the Bruce and LA piece of this. And again, I don't know Bruce well enough to be able to say these things. We get reads on people from being around them and observing them or this or that. And this is just this is a bit of a hunch I have. Bruce is an underdog. And I think that he carries himself like an underdog and views himself as an underdog, and he thrives on people doubting him. The Lakers are the ultimate front runners, right? That's the ultimate. You go to it's the Yankees. So you go there, you are, you're playing a different role inherently. So I do wonder, to me, it seems like the Lakers and Bruce aren't a good, like, whatever you want to call that, intangible thread or spiritual duo or whatever. So to me, it just seems a little bit off. But again, and then the last part, you said the $12.8 million. I just don't think that's the only team that's going to offer him that money. I imagine there's going to be a handful of teams that are willing to say, hey, if that's the price, we got you.
Well, we'll talk more about that on the other side, because it's get to be a really tricky situation. I want to talk to you a little bit about the CBA as well. We'll also talk about like what Bruce would mean in terms of what he would actually do for the Los Angeles Lakers if they were to sign him to the MLA. We'll do that on the other side. First, I'm going to tell you about eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time that you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game. in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us. JK Walrus says,
he says, I'd throw an adult tantrum if Bruce went to the evil empire. I'd be happier for him, but damn. And here's the thing. I talked about how I want KCP to think of himself and be remembered as a Nugget when it's all said and done.
Oh.
He won a championship with the Lakers. He won a championship with the Nuggets. So at the moment, it's almost a tie, right? You spend about the same amount of time, and you can say,
Yep.
Is he a Piston? Is he a Nugget? What is he? You get another title, you're a Nugget. Like, hey, that's where I went, man. I was loved, I was welcome, this and that. Bruce Brown going to the Lakers? Like, I've said Bruce Brown is a Nugget for life. There might have been one small print in there. So long as you never go to the Lakers, at which point, I'm sorry, but you once again have to pay for drinks when you're in the city of Denver. Now, that's a little petty. I'm being a little facetious here, but I would say that, and it's unfair. This is stupid fan stuff. What does Bruce care? But if Bruce went to the Lakers, it would just kind of lessen it for me a little bit. It would be like, I used to love that guy.
but now
I hate him.
But now you'd be like, he's so small. He can't guard anybody.
When I was talking about this, though, real quick, I'll kind of want to lead this because I wanted to talk about it from a Nuggets perspective.
Sure.
And this comes from, Jake Hoyne, friend of the show, Stat Squatch, aka Bronco Squatch. If Denver offers him a 1+1 and then re-signs him again in 2024, over the next 4 years, he would make $53.3 million. Or I'm sorry, $51.9 million. If he signs right now the MLE, he would get 53.3. The numbers are actually about the same, within $1 million. The thing is, you carry a risk because you can't sign. If you do the Denver thing, you sign this first year as very little with the promise that in the future you would sign a big one, which again, has a team ever not followed through with that? Yes. Has a player ever gotten hurt or traded or any of these types of things where all of a sudden it goes Ralph? Like, yeah, there's a risk there. And while I think the Nuggets have built up goodwill, in the Kroenke era, they have done right by people who have not, they've paid early or they stuck with guys when it was like, I don't know if that's quite earned yet, if I don't have done that. And the latest example was Jamal Murray, blows out his knee going into the playoffs. He's going to miss 2 years. And the team says, yeah, but you're our guy. And we'll basically throw away 2 playoff runs because we believe in you. Now, if I'm Bruce, again, there's a risk to that, but it is important to look that there is a world in which Bruce can look at this and say it's actually more or less the same money if they follow through on a promise. And if that's something the Nuggets have promised him, it's not that crazy to think that that might entice him.
Yeah, and I think every athlete approaches the injury stuff differently. From having asked a fair amount of questions of guys on this, there are some guys I think that are like, that money really matters. Like, I had a comment on a show with Anthony Irwin, funny enough, that was talking about, like I mentioned, I was like, I don't know what the difference is between 185 million and 200 million. And somebody was like, $20 million. But that was my thing, is I was like, I don't know how to conceptualize this. Yeah. And they're like, well, that's $20 million is like 2 more generations. I'm like, sure. But I think everyone's perception on these things is different. And I'm not going to paint players across any type of monolith. Like, I'm not, and I will say, like, I've learned this the hard way, that there are a lot of media members that are like, they will come into these locker room situations as in like, this is like a really racist thing of like, kind of assuming everyone comes from a hard background. And it's like, no. Like, some guys just came from middle-class backgrounds. Some guys came from the absolute most devastating poverty you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, but honestly, I think that more come from a middle class, or what we would just call like the average background. Yeah. Like more NBA players, it's actually the default you should actually assume.
And so all of these things will impact how much, like what amount of money, how much it matters to you. And also they're just idiosyncratic. Like, people are just different. And I'll be honest with you, like, I don't know, like I not only do I not know Bruce well enough, I don't know Bruce at all to be able to tell you what he's going to value. I don't know if he's like, some guys with injury are like this, where they're just like, well, yeah, sure, I could get injured, but I could get injured no matter what. I could have a career-ending injury that could happen to me at any time. Like, that's life. That's how it goes. I would rather, like, what I want is to be here. And so I'm going to make decisions off of that. The safe and most, I guess, like, logical is I think a different thing here, but like the most cold-hearted, capitalistic, logical sense of this would be, look, if somebody offers you more money and more security now, take the more money, more security now. It's why I always just laugh, because everybody's like, oh, he could just take whenever it's a rookie, it's like he could just sign the qualifying offer. No one does.
Well, that's also, again, in Bruce's situation, you are using 185 and 200 million, but this is more, Bruce hasn't made that much money in his career. He would double his money in year one should he take one of these, MLE deals or maybe even above. So it's even more like the qualifying offer. Well, why don't rookies just sign that? Because they hadn't made big money yet. So they're often the quickest they can get to big money that you want to do it. But again, here's the other aspect of it. You worry about, okay, you sign this 1+1 and maybe you get hurt. Maybe the Nuggets don't honor a deal or this or that. But there's the other side of this, which is, again, let's go specifically to going to the Lakers. What are the odds that Bruce Brown would sign an MLE, play half a season with the Lakers, and then get traded for Kyrie Irving or some other guy that happens? Like,
that's a great point, actually.
I mean, the Lakers have had a lot of guys that thought they were in the club, like, oh, even including KCP, who was phenomenal for them in a championship run, and then very quickly traded for a sexier player that was shockingly Russell Westbrook. But so Bruce would have a risk, obviously, trying to trust Denver, but there'd also be this aspect of, if I take the money and go there, what if I'm miserable? What if they trade me out and next thing you know, I have to play out a 4-year deal in Oklahoma City or Charlotte or someplace I don't want to be?
I think that's a great point. That's a really great point that I hadn't thought of. That's an excellent point, Adam, that any deal to the Lakers comes with it the implicit knowledge that they are always shopping for the next big name.
And Bruce, that kind of money is like, okay, you're the top guy. You're the one that's going to get traded if this happens.
If Anthony Davis, suffers another injury, like, I genuinely wonder how much patience he's got, like LeBron has left.
Well, first of all, he put out a thing today there was a mock draft that had Bronny James to Atlanta, and LeBron quote tweeted it with like, all right, James gang going to Atlanta. That's a year away. So it's not like it's even that far on the horizon.
Right. So there's all these kind of things. And that's the other thing is, like, if you want to keep contending for championships, LA is not the place to be. Like, you have a window of 1 year, and then, people are always going to want to play in LA. So you'll have that, but like, I don't know. Again, I don't know. Are you going to be happier in LA? Maybe.
Maybe.
Most guys are. I will say that I had kind of expected there to be like a 4-year, $60 million offer for him somewhere.
And it might still be. I mean, the rumors start picking up a little bit more every day.
But like, here's the problem: is like, I'm genuinely, I'm trying not to be alarmist, because I'm pre-wired to be alarmist. There are not a lot of teams with any room to be able to make offers in the first place, like to offer anything over the MLA. There's just not a lot of teams. And then on top of it, this new CBA has teams absolutely freaked out. Everyone's terrified. Like, there are teams that are just dumping salary. That's why
doesn't it feel a little rushed, Matt? Doesn't it feel a little like, does anybody really know?
It's a little panicky.
It's a little panicky, man. And I actually think anytime you mess with the ecosystem with this type of, change in a collective bargaining, I think you never know when you mess it up in a wrong way. The law of unintended consequences is so strong on things like this. And I do worry that the Players Association might have played themselves a little bit, because it feels like the big guys are still getting a lot of money. But I just wonder if there's going to be like a very, very, very small middle class. The Nuggets might be just a normal team in 2 years where it's like starters make a lot. Everyone else is on minimums.
I tweeted that today, that like the Nuggets are hitting a point where they're going to have to sign minimum guys at a point where a lot of players are going to become minimum guys. You're absolutely right that this squeezes the middle class, which makes me deeply uncomfortable as a guy that loves the middle class of the NBA. Like, those are my guys, and those are the guys that are going to suffer the most. Now, like, at the same time, I'll say that like they get a bigger piece of the pie, right? Like they get a bigger chunk of the pie. I think that matters in terms of their ability to like, that was how the owners handle this, which is like, hey, if you'll agree to all these restrictions, we'll give you more money for you guys to have access to make as a whole. And that's kind of the key. It has been interesting to see some of the reactions from the players because like Draymond was pretty pissed from the beginning. He was like livid about this from the start. So like there's all these kind of guys that are I think in that kind of a spot. So it's interesting to kind of see and like try and anticipate how this is going to work out. But I do think that a lot of this is guys are panicking, but also there's going to be guys on the market. And I'm not sure that the market's going to have a lot of teams that are like, oh yeah, let's go drop 60 million, 80 million for Bruce Brown, even though I think he's worth it. Like there's so many guys I'd rather like, there are so many guys I can point to and go, that contract would be better spent on Bruce Brown. Like they should swap those two guys as contracts. There's so many of those dudes around the league. Before we get out of the segment, I do want to ask you because folks are asking about it in the chat segment. The Clippers have waived Eric Gordon, did not guarantee his $25 million in his final year and have waived him. So he's now available. I think Gordon's probably at a point in his career where he would be a potential candidate for a spot the Nuggets would have available. Do you have any early thoughts about a hypothetical, purely speculative connection between the Nuggets and Eric Gordon?
He's an example of a guy that I mean, he would be a great Bruce Brown replacement if you lost him, right? So to me, and you're right. Who knows what he won? He has made some good money. He's had some good contracts. So maybe he would just want to come to Denver. So like it seems like he would fit. I don't know his personality well enough, but it does seem like he would be a guy that would maybe welcome being in Denver. I mean, I don't know that he's a guy that's going to just flee to Phoenix or New York or something, but I don't know. It seems like, he's good, and that would be a good role for him.
I think he would enjoy the culture. I think especially after the last 4 years in Houston, I think he would very much enjoy being around a professional team. That's something I think he would enjoy. On the other side, we'll talk about some of the Northwest teams. Some of them are making moves. Some of them are expected to make moves. We'll talk about what could be on the landscape for the teams in the Nuggets division. We'll do that next on Locked On Nuggets. Final segment here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys making this part of your day. We'll probably do a late show tomorrow. I am disrupting our usual schedule because I am taking the kids hiking. I'm trying to be a dad this week. So I am disrupting our normal schedule, and I appreciate Adam's flexibility as I attempt to return to my kids who have been asking me constantly, when are you going to be done with work for the last 3 months?
Yeah, they're doing that too.
So they're very excited. We're going hiking and swim lessons. We did board games tonight. Lots of fun here at the old Moore house. Let's talk about the Northwest Division. So the Hawks trade Rudy Gay in a second rounder and pick up John Collins off the Atlanta Hawks, who finally trade John Collins.
It seems like a really good deal for Utah.
It was a really great deal for Utah. They got what I consider to be a very good player. Collins had a really rough season last year, and it kind of like coincides. Like Trae Young had a bad year, and John Collins had a bad year. You're shaking your head.
Yeah, I believe in John Collins. So like,
Me too. My read on John Collins has been pretty consistent since about his second year, which is he's versatile. I think he can shoot better than he shot last year. He has consistently kind of hinted at, without saying, that he doesn't necessarily love the way that the Hawks play. I think he tried really hard to be like buds and teammates with Trae. I don't think he wanted to play isocentric. I'm going to sit in the corner and wait for Trae to throw it to me, and then I have to shoot immediately.
Horrible offense. That would suck to play in for anybody besides Trae Young
and PJ Tucker. I think Trae Young. Yeah. I think that John Collins wants to be as part of like a normal basketball team. Defensively, he has real weak spots, but they're all to me accountable by one. He needs the veteran strength that comes as you get into your late 20s, and two, just needs good coaching. I see a lot of want to with him defensively. Like he wants to be a good defender. And that to me is like a building block that you can really go off of. There's been this talk about, well, you got Kessler and Markkanen. Markkanen is killed in lineups where he's the small forward. That happened in Cleveland. And Tony Jones was talking about this. The lineups with Walker Kessler, Kelly Olynyk, and Lauri Markkanen were stellar this season. Marketing works surprisingly well as a 3 because even though you have this defensive issue, you have such an offensive advantage. And again, it's some of the stuff that the Nuggets won with where it's like, yeah, but you also got 3 dudes with immense size on the floor that you're able to always have a size advantage with. Marketing's been able to play very effectively at the 3. So I like this combo of Collins. Marketing is kind of like a combo forward set alongside Walker Kessler. I think it's a really good move for Utah.
Matt, they're going to be unbelievable in short order. I think that's a great 3-4-5. It's large, it's huge. They all have skill sets that make it hard to switch on any of them. Yeah, I like it, man. I just think it works. I'm shocked at the price. They have a huge war chest of picks and things to trade. I just think that it's one of those things where I don't think it's going to make a huge difference next year, but it's going to matter before long. I look, and we talk about the division. I look around and I just go, outside of Portland, who I think is much more of a long-term play, although we'll see what they do in the coming week. But I just think Oklahoma City, Utah, and Minnesota are all teams that before long are going to be really good.
Let's go to Portland. There is no trade on the board I can see that gets Portland to division contender status next season. Top 4 seed. There's no move that gets them there.
Portland?
Yeah. There's no
move. What about Draymond Green? Jeremy Grant.
God, it gets them closer. It does get them closer.
I don't think it's the regular season wins. They could be like, okay, now this team's hard out and they're weird, whatever, but I don't think it's a 56-win team.
No, it's still not. I mean, a lot of this for me is just one of the struggles, and I've talked about this pretty consistently. They can't move Nurkic. Like, no matter what, like, nobody's taking the money. And that's what they need to fix here is, like, they got to get, like, I made this point to Danny Moran, good friend of mine, that, like, he was talking about how somebody said there's no point in trading Claxton if you're going to trade for Dame. And he was like, you wouldn't trade the 4th best player on the Nets for one of the best offensive players in the league. And I was like, no, but it's the same point. Like, you have to pair Dame with a versatile, good, not okay, good defensive player. Claxton's not great at playing bigs, but he's versatile as hell. He can play a lot of different things. He can be okay in a lot of different setups. Against the biggest guys, he's going to get killed. But that versatility is absolutely vital. And I was like, otherwise, you're just the Blazers. And Danny was like, ouch. And it's like, that's true. Like, that's the real problem. Until they figure out how to solve the Nurkic issue, it doesn't really matter to me what Portland does. Right. And this is one of the problems is, like, I've heard that they are not interested in trading for Karl Anthony Towns, that Dame does not want to play with Cat. Like, that's not a thing that they want to do. That's rumor in the wind. That's rumor in the wind. Rumor in the wind. I'm not reporting that. That's just like speculative. That's like in the winds of the NBA. But like, Cat wouldn't do it either. Because you can't, you don't have that defensive versatility. So there's no real window there. And then the alternative is that they have to trade Dame. And if they traded Dame, like, they are going to the bottom as quickly as possible. And like that's a 25-win team immediately. Especially with these deals because I'll tell you, there's that report today that the Blazers are, quote, not high on Hero. And they may have been just trying to get the Heat to stop leaking constantly that they're going to trade for Damian Lillard. But it also, like, I think that there's another interpretation of that, which is them like soft launching the idea of like, well, even if Hero wasn't included in a deal, we wouldn't want him. Because from what I've heard is that Miami's confident they would try and not include Hero in that deal, which is just incredible that Portland may not even get Hero in the deal. Like, they're looking at a truly like an all-time horror show trade if Dame asks out in the next 10 days. OKC is the interesting one, right? Played Denver pretty well last year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming off of what was a fringe MVP candidate season. Like, if you go far enough down the list, like, he got.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he was really good. Yeah,
I had him on my ballot on the last straw poll. Chet Holmgren adds after a full year, had basically a redshirt year, has been, adding strength and conditioning with a pro coach. You got Jalen Williams, both with another year on them. I was, because I'm demented, I got on the treadmill yesterday and I turned on Blazers Thunder from December because that's the kind of human I am.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. And so, but I was like watching like Josh Giddey and I was like looking at all the things that he can do. And I was like, God, he really is like, as Giddey gets better, there's just like, he's going to be one of those guys that just does so many things that help you win. I think Josh Giddey's that type of player. I really think OKC is going to be interesting next year. Now I'm curious to see what they're going to do in free agency because they actually do need to actually try. And this has been the first time in 4 years that Presti's had to actually try and put a team together that's built to win. But I am kind of curious to see what they're going to do. I think OKC could be north of 45 next year, I'll say, in wins in the regular season.
To me, they're both Utah and OKC are teams that I think are probably a year away from being really real threats, but that both will be threats. Like the Jokic era is Utah and Oklahoma City are going to be real challengers. I just don't think it'll be next year.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this should be considered. We're talking about these teams in this division. Like it was funny because it's like there's two questions here. Can these teams beat the Nuggets in the playoffs? And my answer is like, no, hard no, absolutely not. None of these teams I don't think can beat the Nuggets in the playoffs. Then there's like, can these teams outrace Denver for seeding if Denver has like injuries or whatever else? And it's like, like they might be able to get there, you know?
I don't think so for either team either. I mean, again, in short order, but I just don't think next year. I think next year is a little too tough. I mean, again, we have to wait and see what happens with Bruce, and we have to see how healthy Denver stay. I mean, there's variables that can make that a possibility, but Denver would just be a cut above, even as a regular season team, I think.
The Wolves were linked to some rumors today as well. They've talked to the Wizards about DeLon Wright,
and
Monte Morris. I don't know.
Him the best, man.
He's got his guys.
He's got his guys.
Hey, look, Daryl's got the same thing. Daryl Morey's got his guys.
Totally does.
Daniel House has had a job for 6 years because of Daryl Morey. Everybody's got their guys, right? So
what about Bruce? What if they go after Bruce too?
Oh, boy, that would be interesting. That would actually be a really good fit too. He would do a lot for them. How good do you think the Wolves are going to be next year? Let's say they signed Naz Reid to the extension. Jaden McDaniels develops another year. Ant's got another year on him.
He's great.
How good do you think they're going to be?
It just depends on what they do with Cat. To me, I've always said I think that's a sleeping giant if they find a way to move Cat for real value. And I don't know if they will be able to, but there have been like these loose rumors about Cat and some of the teams that have been interested in him and potential landing spots. And I just look at it and I go, if they move him and complete their roster, they're a team that I could see being very, very good next year because I have a lot of respect for Rudy Gobert. I think Anthony Edwards is close to being a guy who could be a number one on a team that wins playoff rounds. And then Jaden McDaniels, I mean, that's a heck of a defender, man. So I just think they have a good foundation, and it all comes down to that one move.
My Chris Broussard #sauces say the Wolves maintain that they have not made Cat available. The rest of the NBA, for whatever reason, is definitely under the impression that they've made Cat available. Like
he's available.
That's what I would say. It's like, if he's not available, then everyone's been lying their faces off about hearing that they've made Cat available. Because boy, there's been a lot of rumors about him. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that I'm working on this project right now for Action heading into Friday about what are the teams that have what I'm calling runway. Like, this is one of the things. I don't think the Raptors have any runway. Like, they switch coaches. Cool. How do they get better?
By the way, did you see the report today? You've been on this about Nick Nurse, but that now that Nick Nurse is not the Canadian basketball coach, like all these players want to play again. Very, very interesting. You were early on Nurse.
Which is funny because like I talked to Nurse when he was coaching the G League. I think Nurse is a genius. I just think that Nurse is not for everybody. I think that's
the thing people don't realize about the NBA, man. It's so much, maybe even more about that.
You want to know? Here's a good local connection with that. It's George. Gary Payton swears by George.
Right.
Like Gary Payton will always swear by George. Ray Allen would cross the street to spit on him. Like Ray Allen is never going to let go of his hatred for George Karl, right? So, and my thing is it's like, well, was George a good coach or not? And I'm like, yeah, he was a great coach. He won a ton of games. So players loved him? No, Absolutely not. Lots of players hated George Karl. Like, that's just how it goes. And I'll say this too. A great coach to stand in contrast of that to me is Earl Watson. Earl Watson was beloved by the Suns. Every player that came through Phoenix was like, I love that guy. That's my guy. What a great coach. Love playing for him. Would run through a brick wall for him. Love playing for him. Could not win a basketball game to save his soul. That team was an absolute train wreck under him. So it's like, it's balance, man, you know? And this is how all that goes. All right. So we've covered Bruce. We've covered the Northwest. We've covered the Lakers possibly getting Bruce, which would be unfortunate. All right. So final question, because you kind of like, you're like, I'm being facetious, kind of. It was one of those, I'm kidding like Jason, unless you're going to do it things. If Bruce Brown signs to the Lakers, does he still get drinks in Denver for free for life?
I hate to do it because I love Bruce, but no, can't do it, man.
Anywhere
Can't
else,
do it.
though? Is there any other
No,
team?
of course. Anywhere else, man. Are you kidding?
Anywhere else.
Nuggets for life, baby.
There's no other team.
No.
Okay.
Only one
That
team I
makes
hate that way.
That makes sense.
I mean, he went to Phoenix. I would be upset, but I would deal with it.
But he still gets the tab picked up.
Yeah.
All right, let's get wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with another show. We'll see you guys again then. Thanks for joining us on Locked On Nuggets.